Hey guys, my name is Vanessa. This is my first DIY YouTube video. So sorry if it's a little bit shaky or messy. I'm gonna try my best to describe everything step by step so you guys can make one of these really cool underwater mermaid themed party favors. Alright, so for this project you're just gonna need a baby food jar or something with a lid. You're gonna need some glitter, any color, at least 3 brushes, 1 for the glue and 2 for paint, some thick wire. I got these from the dollar store. A hot glue gun and some hot glue sticks. And the paint that you decide to use, just make it in theme with the party that you're having or with your decorations. You're gonna need some scissors to cut the wire and some Mod Podge. Alright, so for this first step, you're just going to need your Mod Podge, the jar, and a paintbrush. When you do start adding the glue onto your jar, just make sure that you do it in a stippling motion, because if you wipe your brush on the jar, then you're basically just picking up the glue from the jar, and it's going to leave like a really thin area. You also don't want to add any glue or glitter onto the bottom part of your jar. It's just going to make your jar stand uneven on the table, and it's not really necessary because no one's going to be able to see it. Make sure you have a really thick coat of glue on your jar, because if it's too thin, then the glitter is not going to be able to stay on, and it's going to look a little bit patchy and bumpy and uneven. So just make sure it's nice and even and you put a good layer of glue on there. Make sure that when you put it down, you want to put it down upside down so that the opening is touching the table or whatever you're putting it on, just because you don't want the glue leaving like a little ring on the table or something. And just grab your glitter. I'm using a gold glitter today, but you could use any color you want. They sell these glitters at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, any kind of craft store. I'm pretty sure they should have them at the dollar store as well. Just make sure you keep going around, dust off some of the glitter without actually touching the glitter, because if you touch it, then you're just going to smear the glue and it's not going to look pretty and it's going to be really hard to fix. Once you've added the glitter on evenly, just make sure you pat it a little bit, take off any excess glitter and put it off to the side and just wait for it to dry completely. For this jar, I wanted to do something a little bit more different. I wanted the little circle things to look like bubbles, since it is going to be a mermaid themed party. So the same rules apply with this one. Just make sure you use a stippling motion. You don't want to wipe anything on there because, like I said, it's going to be too thin, so you want a nice thick layer of Mod Podge. You could use any kind of design for these jars. You could do zigzags or squares or just lines. Anything goes well. And I used really thick glitter. I used the same kind of glitter for the first one, and it wasn't really a good idea. You need the finer kind of glitter if you want to do small shapes. While we wait for those to dry, you want to grab the lids and grab whatever colors you're going to use. And I just use a paint that's on the lid or in the little cap, because you're not going to need that much paint anyway. It's a really small surface and 2 coats do the job. The brush that I'm using is a little bit softer than most cheap brushes, so make sure you grab a soft one, because if it's too thick, you're going to leave strokes on there and the paint's just going to keep coming off. You also want to make sure that you add 2 coats to this, because you will be able to see through it after the first coat, or if you're using some kind of more expensive or thicker paint, then you won't need it. Before you add the second coat, oops, I dropped everything. Before you add the second coat, make sure that the paint is 100% dry, because you're going to be able to see here on the pink lid. Once I start going in with my second coat, I start picking up some of the paint that I had put in the first coat, and you're gonna end up needing to do it again and again if you don't wait for it to dry, so just make sure it's 100% dry. After the jar is completely dry, you want to go on and add the second coat of glue. You only want to do this because glitter gets everywhere. It's going to get on people's faces, on people's hands, on little kids' hands, and you don't want little kids eating any kind of glitter. And with this second coat of Mod Podge, I am using a brushing motion just because you want a really thin layer of Mod Podge. You don't want it too thick, like if you were to stipple the glue on there again. So just make sure it's nice and even. You don't want it to dry off real bumpy or anything, but just set it off to the side and let it dry. So you're going to want to start cutting up the wire. I'm using the scissors. You could use the wire clippers or whatever they're called, but when you cut them, just cut them up in different sizes. They don't all have to be the same. The wire that I did get it from the dollar store, and they have different colors, but the color doesn't matter, but the size does. If it's too thin, then once you start adding the hot glue, then it's just going to fall right off. So you want something a little bit thicker so it's sturdy enough to carry the hot glue. And this is going to be the base for the coral reef. You want to fold it a little bit on the bottom where your thumb is going to be, and this will just make it easier for us to be able to stick them together. Here I'm showing you, once I added the hot glue, it's going to come out a little bumpy, but that's how you want it. It has to be a little bit textured, like the actual little coral reef. I don't even know what they're called, I feel so bad. But you can see that even after I added the hot glue, it's still a little bit bendable, so it's flexible and easy to use. Next, we're going to start doing these small branches that you see here on the side. These are a little bit more difficult to do, and they do take a lot more time and patience because every little branch, you have to add the glue and then wait for it to dry. And if you add too much hot glue, then it's just going to drip completely off and you're going to end up spilling it on your floor or your table, whatever you're on. So just put on a little bit at a time, let it hang, let it dry, and if you want the little branches to start folding, just start tilting the angle, because I don't know, you'll be able to tell once you do it. I needed more glue. I started making the branches a little bit longer, and like I said, you don't want to add too much because it's just gonna drip off completely. So you just need a lot of patience and patience and patience. You want to do at least 2 in each stick. You could leave one without it just to make it a little bit different, but there you can see that I already have almost have my 3 done. You want to add the glue where your thumb was now, and you want to start putting them all together. And sorry, I'm not used to the whole camera thing, so some of the stuff that I am going to be recording is off the frame. So I hope you can still tell what I'm doing. Now that I've glued everything together, I'm just making it a little bit different. I'm changing the shapes, and the glue fell off there, so just add a little bit more, it's no big deal. You could still bend them whatever shape or direction you want them to go in. But yeah, and just a heads up, since it is metal, it is going to get hot once the hot glue touches it, so just be really careful. You could do this with your kids, but just make sure that the adult is the one that handles the metal and the hot glue. Next step is just painting it, whatever colors you'd want to paint it. This one's going to require 2 coats, or like I said, if you have some thicker paint, then you're not going to need it. Here's just a little close-up. And then I went back on the jar with little bubbles on it. You just want to add the second coat of the Mod Podge because you want the glitter to stay on the jar. You don't want it falling off everywhere. And make really thin layers of glue again. You don't want it too thick. And you're gonna see here in a little bit that I grab a brand new brush to try to dust off the glitter that's in between each bubble, but you don't have to do that until it's dry. It's just, I like to make my life harder sometimes. Here's a lid. I added some of this satin finish and it kind of wasn't a good idea because the expiration date came through the paint. So I'm gonna use some super glue or some hot glue. I keep mixing them up. I'm gonna use some hot glue. I'm gonna put some on the lid and some on this coral wreath thing. And make sure you hold it until it gets a little bit dry or else you're gonna see it fell over. And I'm adding some glitter right now that the hot glue is still hot and wet. So just add a little bit. You can also just grab some Mod Podge and add it on after the hot glue had dried. So it's up to you. If you want it to be a little bit easier, just use a Mod Podge. Don't be like me. Here's a little close up and I like how it's turning out so far. Here's a finishing product. I added a little starfish on top. You can add whatever you want. You could also use it as a photo holder for your office or for your room. It's a cooler alternative to a frame. So that's my cat Romeo, by the way. Or you can also fill it up with goodies, some M&Ms or Skittles, anything you like. And I completely failed because I missed the jar. Half of them fell to the floor. And here's a little stippled one. I'm putting some of my daughter's hair clips in there. Like I said, you could use it for a lot of things. You could use it for your rings, for your jewelry, anything. And here they are. I really like how they came out. You could use different colors of paint and different colors of glitter. I really hope you like it, and I hope that this first video wasn't too bad. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. If you have any questions, I'll try to reply to every single one of you.